The second I saw the time, my chest tightened. 6:42 p.m. Melissa was supposed to be ready at 5:30. Tonight was my father's birthday, his 71st. The kind of man who never asked for anything, not even this dinner. And she knew that. I dialed her. She answered on the second ring, her tone flat and unbothered. Relax, Travis. It's not a big deal. Your family can wait. I closed my eyes. The anger didn't come loud. It came cold. They've been waiting. We've all been waiting. She sighed, like I just asked her to run a marathon. Well, I had things to do. You don't control my time. Melissa, I said, voice low, steady. This isn't about control. It's about respect. For me. For my father. For a man who helped pay for our wedding when your own family vanished into thin air. She scoffed. So now we're keeping score? You started keeping score the moment you stopped showing up. There was a pause, longer than I expected. Then, with a venom-coated sweetness, she said, maybe I just didn't feel like playing the dutiful wife tonight. There it was. Not even masked. Then don't pretend. I snapped. Don't post pictures of us smiling when you're 1 foot out the door. Her voice dropped into mock sympathy. Are we feeling neglected now? I laughed. Short. Bitter. No, Melissa. I'm done feeling anything. That made her go quiet. You know what? I said, grabbing my keys. Don't worry about coming. You've already made your choice. You're not serious, she bit back. You're going to show up without me? Make a scene? Embarrass me? No. I'm going to dinner with my family. You embarrassed yourself. And then, quietly, deliberately, I added, don't be upset, but now you'll have to wait. Click. The line went dead. I walked out. Outside, the heat still hung in the air, but something inside me had gone cold. This wasn't just a late wife. This wasn't just disrespect. This was clarity. People think betrayal is loud, slammed doors, shouted names. But sometimes, it's a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. A casual dismissal when your world is cracking. I drove to my parents' place alone. Their little house glowing with warmth, candles flickering in the window. My nephews ran up to greet me. My sister hugged me. Nobody asked why Melissa wasn't there. Not yet. But the storm had already begun. And this time, I wasn't waiting for her to explain herself. My parents' home always smelled like Sunday dinners. Rosemary, garlic, warm bread from an oven older than me. Laughter echoed from the kitchen to the back porch, where my nephews had turned a deck chair into a pirate ship. My father was wearing the same plaid shirt he wore every year for his birthday, patched at the elbows, but proud as ever. I could have let the night wrap around me like it used to, but the buzz in my pocket kept reminding me that some shadows follow you indoors. Melissa. She'd called 3 times. By the 4th, I stepped away from the crowd and answered. Well, she snapped the second I picked up. I'm dressed. Where are you? I'm at the dinner, I said simply, eyes on the string lights overhead. Excuse me. Her voice sharpened. You left without me? I told you I was leaving, Melissa. She laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. So you're really going to act like a child and punish me? Over what? Being a little late? You were an hour and a half late. You didn't call. You didn't care. And now you're ready because what? Your plans changed? There was a pause. You're being dramatic. I looked through the window, watching my dad cut his cake while my nephews tried to sneak fingerfuls of icing. No, I said. I'm being clear. Call a taxi. That silence, thick and charged, stretched just long enough to crack something. You're unbelievable, she hissed. What are you trying to prove? That you're independent now? That you don't need your wife? I smiled faintly, though it didn't reach my eyes. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just done playing chauffeur to someone who can't be bothered to respect my time or my family. You're making a scene. No, I said calmly. You're just not part of it anymore. I hung up before she could twist the knife, slipped the phone back into my pocket, and returned to the warmth like nothing had happened. And isn't that strange? You can be in a room full of people you love, bathed in candlelight and stories from childhood, and still feel the cold breath of something unraveling at the back of your neck. I smiled when my mother offered me a second slice of cake. I laughed when my sister told a story about Dad falling asleep at the DMV. I held my nephew upside down when he demanded a dizzy hug. But deep down, I was counting the cracks in the dam. Not just Melissa's absence, but what it revealed. She hadn't missed this dinner because she was busy. She missed it because she didn't care. And maybe that was the moment I started shifting inside, quietly, without announcement. No outburst. No slammed doors. Just a slow recalibration of everything I once tolerated. Melissa could still show up, sure, but she was already late in more ways than one. I was halfway through a laugh, one of those real, belly-deep ones, when the front door creaked open. Melissa. Her heels struck the hardwood like a warning shot, one sharp click after another. She was overdressed, overposed, wearing a coat she rarely wore unless she wanted attention. Hair curled, lips red, presence loud. But the room barely stirred. My mom handed my dad another slice of cake. My nephew shouted something about Pokemon. My sister raised an eyebrow but didn't pause her story. Melissa stood there, smiling tightly. Hi, everyone, sorry I'm late. Traffic. Not even a flinch. A few murmured greetings. Someone coughed. She looked around, trying to locate the warmth. But it wasn't here. And when her eyes landed on me, I didn't stand. I didn't wave. I didn't even smile. She walked over, lips still stretched into that carefully arranged grin. Travis, she said softly, can we talk? I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. You want to talk now? She hesitated. Just for a second. You had an hour and a half to talk, I said. Right now? I'm busy catching up with people who actually wanted to be here. The words hit her like cold water. Seriously, she whispered, voice just tight enough to reveal the cracks. You're going to act like this? In front of everyone? I shrugged. Act like what? Like I'm enjoying the party? She leaned in, eyes narrowing. You left me. I gave you a chance, I said calmly. You threw it away. And now you want the stage back because your audience didn't follow you. Her breath caught. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm just done giving you spotlights you don't deserve. I turned back to Jacob, who was already laughing at something my dad said. Melissa didn't move. After a long pause, she dropped into the chair beside me, uninvited. She crossed her legs, tried to blend in, commented on the cake, asked my cousin about college, complimented my mom's earrings. But every word from her mouth floated like helium, light, disconnected, forgotten the moment it left her lips. Nobody was unkind. They were just done, and it was killing her. Melissa shifted beside me. Can we please go outside and talk? I looked at her, really looked. The perfectly set curls, the trembling lower lip. And for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing. You can talk, I said, but I'm not leaving this table. Her voice dropped to a hiss. So this is what you wanted? To humiliate me? I sipped my drink. No, that part you did all by yourself. Her jaw tightened, and I knew she wanted to slap the smirk off my face. But instead, she smiled again. That strained, glass-fragile smile she wore when she knew she was losing. She stayed another 20 minutes, trying to claw her way back into a moment that no longer needed her. And I didn't stop her. Because tonight, the silence was mine. The calm. The control. And Melissa? She was just a late arrival to a celebration that had already moved on without her. The second I turned the key and opened the front door, I could feel it building behind me, like a summer storm about to break. Melissa followed close, her heels fast, her breath short. She didn't even wait for the door to shut. Do you feel better? She snapped, tossing her coat onto the couch like she was shedding her entire persona. Was that fun for you? I didn't answer. Just walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. The hum of the fridge was louder than her voice, for now. She marched in after me. You humiliated me. In front of your entire family. I took a sip. Funny. I thought you did that by showing up an hour and 45 minutes late. Oh, come on, Travis, she barked. Stop playing victim. I got ready. I came. But you acted like I didn't exist. You didn't, I said calmly. Not for weeks. Her mouth opened, closed. That's ridiculous. I leaned against the counter, letting the silence drag for a moment too long. You really think no one notices? I asked. The dinner's missed. The late night, work calls that somehow always end with your phone face down. The way you haven't looked at me, really looked at me, in months? She crossed her arms. So now I'm cheating? That's where we're going? I didn't say that, I said. But if the shoe fits, at least have the decency to walk out in it. That stung. I saw it. The way her jaw clenched. But I didn't move. She stepped closer, voice lower now. I've been stressed, Travis. Things have been hard. You've been distant too. I almost laughed. Distant? Or finally quiet enough that you couldn't tune me out anymore. She stared at me, as if searching for some remnant of the man she used to own like a trophy on a shelf. But I wasn't there, and it terrified her. "You're really trying to rewrite this whole thing," she said. "Like I'm the villain and you're just this perfect, wounded little saint." I gave a slow smile. "No, Melissa. I'm just finally speaking at the volume you taught me to use, silent." That did it. She snapped. "You want me to say sorry? Fine. I'm sorry you couldn't handle a little independence. I'm sorry your ego bruises every time I don't fall at your feet. You think your family's cold now? Try looking in the mirror." I walked past her, calm, detached, and opened the sliding door to the back porch. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Somewhere quiet," I said. "Somewhere you're not talking." I stepped out and closed the door behind me, letting the cool night air hit my skin like a balm. Out here, the world was still. Crickets hummed. A few porch lights flickered down the street. I sat on the steps, staring at nothing in particular. Inside, I could still hear her pacing, mumbling, angry at herself, or maybe angry that I didn't break this time. That was the moment something clicked. For so long, I'd been reacting, trying to decode her moods, trying to fix, appease, preserve. But for what? A woman who weaponized silence, turned her absence into punishment, and called it freedom? No more. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I'd been on the emotional ropes, swinging wild, hoping to land something that looked like connection. But tonight, I stopped swinging. I started calculating. If she wanted a game, fine. Let it be chess. And the first rule of chess? You never reveal your real move until it's too late to stop it. The morning after our fight, I didn't sleep in. I didn't sulk. I didn't stew in silence like I used to. I made coffee, shaved clean, ironed my shirt. Melissa walked into the kitchen in her robe, hair tied in a loose bun, her expression guarded, like she hadn't decided yet which version of herself she was going to play today. Apologetic wife? Indignant victim? Aloof stranger? I didn't wait to find out. "Morning," I said, calm as ever. She blinked. "Morning." That was it. No mention of the fight. No sarcastic recap of the party. She waited for me to start something. I didn't. I grabbed my travel mug, checked the time, and headed for the door. "You're leaving early," she said. "Busy week," I replied, slipping on my shoes. "Got stuff to do." She frowned faintly. "Like what?" "Work." "Since when do you leave before 7? I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Since now." She didn't like that. Her tone sharpened just a hair. "Well, will you be back for dinner?" "Doubt it." "Meeting." I finally turned, met her eyes. "Just somewhere people want me." Then I walked out. The air outside felt crisper than usual, like something in the universe had clicked into a different gear. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel guilty for keeping my life to myself. That day, I stayed late at work. I wasn't lying. I really did have deadlines. But even when I didn't, I lingered. I had coffee with coworkers I usually ignored. I answered emails slower, on purpose. I took the long way home. Melissa texted around 6. "Still at the office?" I waited 20 minutes before replying. "Yeah, don't wait up." She didn't respond. The next morning, she was up before me, rare. She stood at the stove, making eggs. A peace offering? Maybe. Or a test. "You're working late again today?" she asked without turning. "Probably." Another pause. "You've been really unavailable lately." I sipped my coffee. Is there something going on?" I met her gaze across the kitchen. Not angry. Not bitter. Just calm. "You mean besides you pretending nothing's broken?" She flinched, then covered it quickly. "I'm not pretending." "No," I said. "You're avoiding. There's a difference." She bit her lip. "So now you're punishing me?" I tilted my head. "Funny. You disappear for months, and now I'm the one punishing you because I'm not sitting by the door like a good dog?" The silence between us grew legs. Started pacing the room. She finally said, "I just want to know where we stand." I leaned in, real close. "We stand where you left us." And just like that, I left again. That week was a blur of meetings, extra hours, new habits. I picked up a side project, joined a gym near the office, said yes to after-work drinks with the team. Melissa noticed. She started texting more, asking if I wanted to order in, if I'd be home by 9, if I wanted to talk. I gave her crumbs. One-word answers. Half smiles. I was polite, always, but unreachable. And the truth? I wasn't doing it to hurt her. I was doing it to remember how it felt not to be invisible. The office had never felt like much before, just rows of glass and gray and flickering overhead lights. I used to count the minutes until I could go home. Not anymore. Now, it felt like a haven. like order, like control. While Melissa watched our marriage splinter in silence, I found new ground beneath my feet. And funny enough, it was the people I'd ignored for years who started noticing the shift first. "You've been on fire lately," one of the project managers told me during a morning meeting. "You ever sleep?" "Sometimes," I said with a small grin. "I just do it standing up now." They laughed. Not politely, genuinely. It startled me how easily the room responded. Like I'd been wearing someone else's face for years, and now they were finally seeing mine. Maybe that's what happens when you stop chasing someone who isn't looking back. You start walking taller without even meaning to. Deadlines got met faster. Presentations ran smoother. My department numbers hit targets we hadn't touched in years. And while I used to sit in the back during strategy sessions, suddenly I was the one running them. That Thursday, our regional director pulled me aside. "Mixers tonight," she said. "And we're expecting all department heads. You've earned your spot." I blinked. I didn't even know I was being considered. She gave a knowing smile. "That's because you were too busy doing the work to worry about the credit. But trust me, people are noticing." That evening, I changed shirts twice. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, just because I could. I wasn't dressing for approval anymore. I was dressing like someone who belonged. The rooftop bar downtown was full by the time I arrived. Warm lights spilling through glass, soft jazz underscoring the chatter of professionals half a drink in. "Travis," someone called. I turned to see a few of the newer hires waving me over like I was the guest of honor. I wasn't used to it, but I didn't hate it. The drinks flowed. Laughter came easy. At some point, a manager from marketing asked if I was the guy from the Johnson account. When I nodded, she smiled wide. "Word is you saved it. They were about to walk before your pitch." I shrugged. Just gave them what they didn't know they needed. "You ever think about stepping into a bigger role?" I tilted my head. "Why? You offering one?" She smiled. "Not me, but someone might be." I laughed it off, but I felt it in my chest. This lightness I hadn't felt in a long time. A kind of clarity that doesn't come from comfort. It comes from surviving something that was trying to drown you. Around 9, the music shifted, bass heavy now, low enough to rattle the windows. Our regional director clinked a spoon against her glass. "Quick announcement," she said. "Before everyone gets too deep into their third drink, I want to recognize someone who's gone above and beyond this quarter. Someone who's quietly become a cornerstone of this office." She looked around. Then her eyes landed on me. "Travis Monroe, come up here." I froze. There was a burst of applause. A few whoops. "Let's go, Travis," from the back. I stepped forward, stunned. "Starting next month," she said, "Travis will officially take over as Regional Operations Manager." The cheers were real. So were the handshakes. I even got a pat on the back from a senior VP I'd only ever emailed. But through it all, I just stood there smiling, calm, grounded. Because here's the thing. That room was spinning with lights and voices and champagne. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was falling behind. I wasn't Melissa's husband tonight. I wasn't a forgotten presence in a cold house. I was Travis Monroe, and I was just getting started. It was a Saturday afternoon when the silence finally turned on her. I was at my desk, sorting through client emails when I heard the closet door creak open in the bedroom. Melissa had been strangely helpful that day, offering to do laundry, picking up after dinner, even humming like nothing between us had changed. Too late for performance, but I didn't stop her. She was folding clothes, moving through our closet like someone playing house. That's when she grabbed my navy sport coat from the back of the chair, the one I wore to the mixer, and everything shifted. She held it for a second too long, brought it to her face, paused. Then I heard the sharp inhale. Not dramatic, just precise. A second later, her voice, sharp and bitter. "Who is she?" I didn't flinch, didn't look up, just calmly scrolled through an email. "I asked you a question," she snapped, storming into the office with the jacket still clutched in her hand. "Who is she, Travis?" I leaned back in my chair. "You're going to need to be more specific." Her eyes blazed. "Don't play with me. This jacket smells like perfume. Something cheap and floral, definitely not mine." I gave her the faintest smile. Maybe it was a handshake with a coworker, a hug from someone at the mixer. "It's a crowded office, Melissa. Things transfer." "Don't gaslight me," she barked. "That's not someone brushing past you. That's since been on there all week." I set my phone down and stood up slowly, walking over to where she stood. We were inches apart now. "Melissa," I said, voice low and steady. You are imagining things. Her face twisted. No, I'm not. You are, I said again. And do you know why? She blinked, caught off guard. Because that's what distance does. It makes people paranoid. Makes them suspicious. Makes them see ghosts they created themselves. She didn't respond. Just stared at me, trying to find the man she used to guilt trip, manipulate, emotionally bait. But I wasn't him anymore. You think I'm cheating? I said. Because you would. Her lips parted, offended, cornered, furious. You think I've replaced you? Because deep down, you know you already became replaceable. She slapped the jacket down on the table between us. You think this version of you is impressive? Cold. Detached. Smirking while your wife spirals? I stayed still. No. I think this version of me finally respects himself. She let out a shaky breath, like the air was refusing to stay in her lungs. Tell me right now, she demanded. Is there someone else? I stepped closer. Tell me, Melissa. Would it matter if there was? That broke her. Her face crumbled, just for a split second. She masked it fast, but I saw the flicker. And I knew what it was. Fear. Not of betrayal. Not of infidelity. But of irrelevance. For years, Melissa had been the axis I revolved around. Every decision, every move, every late night spent justifying her coldness to myself. It all pointed back to her. Now, the compass needle didn't twitch when she moved. And that was the one thing she couldn't stand. She turned and walked away without another word, her footsteps heavy, loud with a rage that had nowhere to land. I sat back down at my desk, picked up my phone, went right back to work. Because whatever she thought she'd found clinging to that jacket, it wasn't perfume. It was distance. And she was finally starting to smell it. It was a Thursday morning when she finally tried to reel me back in, on her terms. I was pouring coffee, dressed sharp, already thinking about a client pitch, when Melissa walked in. Not moody, not tense. Just composed. Polished, even. Her robe tied just a little tighter. Her makeup already half done, though the sun wasn't fully up. We have a party this weekend, she said, reaching casually for a mug. Company thing. Big one. I need you to come. I looked over my shoulder. Since when do you need me anywhere? She gave a flat smile. Since it's at the CEO's house and my boss will be watching. It'll look strange if I show up alone. I turned back to the counter, stirred my coffee. You mean it'll look strange if you show up alone again? She didn't take the bait. It's black tie? I'll send you the address. Just be on time. No, please. No, would you like to come? Not even a trace of apology for the months of absence and emotional vacancy. Just an expectation that I'd show up, smile, stand at her side like I was still hers. I didn't argue, didn't hesitate, just said, all right. She looked surprised for half a second, but recovered fast. Good. She left the room, and I started planning. Not vengeance, not theatrics, just precision. That night, I pulled out my tux, had it dry cleaned, polished my shoes, ran a comb through my hair like I used to when we were dating. The suit still fit, but I didn't wear it for her. I wore it for clarity, because I knew exactly what this party was. Not a celebration, not a social obligation, a performance. Her performance. Melissa had built her world on appearances, on curated social charm. Just enough flirtation to feel powerful, just enough control to keep others orbiting her. But tonight, she'd invited me into the theater, into her space, and she didn't know I'd read the script before she handed it over. Saturday came. We rode in silence most of the way, windows down, music low. She looked out the window, pretending not to check her reflection in the side mirror every few seconds. I watched the city lights flicker across her face, wondering what version of herself she'd decided to wear tonight. We pulled up to the gated home, a sprawling property with glowing lanterns, soft jazz echoing from the backyard. The kind of setting that screams money disguised as warmth. Before I could even open my door, she grabbed my wrist. Don't let them think we're a couple. Just like that. The mask slipped for a second, and I saw it. The desperation, the attempt at control, the panic in pretending she still held all the pieces. I leaned in slowly, our faces inches apart, and whispered, I wouldn't dream of ruining your illusion. She stared at me, waiting for something. A rise, a fight, even sarcasm. But I gave her nothing. Just that same calm, unreadable quiet that had been driving her mad for weeks. She stepped out first. Her heels hit the pavement like applause cues. She straightened her dress, touched her necklace, and smiled the way she always did when entering a room that might hold opportunity. I followed, a few paces behind. Not a shadow, not a partner, just a man who understood now. This wasn't her battlefield. It was mine. The laughter hit first. Not the polite kind, the real kind. Easy, expensive. Coming from small clusters of men in sharp suits and women in diamonds they didn't bother to hide. The air was thick with money and soft manipulation. Melissa moved through it like she belonged. She gripped her wine glass delicately, her laugh tuned perfectly for the setting, just a touch breathy, deferential to anyone with status, sharp enough to draw attention when she wanted it. I watched her from the corner of the patio, drink in hand, untouched. I didn't need to play. I just needed to watch. A few familiar faces noticed me. One of the junior partners from another division gave a quick nod, and I returned it. I spoke when spoken to, smiled just enough, shook hands when expected. But mostly, I stayed quiet. Because Melissa was performing, and the cracks were already starting to show. She introduced me to a woman from marketing as my +1, never my husband. She lingered by her boss's side with the charm of someone desperately curating chemistry. When he laughed at something I couldn't hear, she placed her hand on his shoulder. Barely, for just a second too long. She was building her image. Independent, elegant, desired. But every few minutes, her eyes darted back to me. Checking, measuring, worrying. I didn't engage, didn't scowl, didn't even move. Just stood there, a calm presence she could neither control nor ignore. It was driving her mad. I could see it in the way she adjusted her dress too often. The way she whispered quickly to the bartender, then smiled a second too late when someone tapped her shoulder. She was used to knowing where the power sat. And tonight, it wasn't with her. I walked inside for air, though it was the same breeze, just filtered through soft music and crystal chandeliers. On the way back out, a man near the fireplace recognized me. You're Monroe, right? Travis Monroe? Depends, I said with a small smile. Am I being served papers or offered a drink? He laughed. Neither. Just heard your name mentioned in the last regional meeting. Johnson account, right? That's me. Strong work. You've been on radar lately. Melissa passed by us just then, and I caught the way her head turned. Barely. She was listening. I didn't give her anything. Just a polite nod to the man and moved on. Then the mic tapped. Melissa's boss stood on the back patio, smiling under the soft glow of hanging lights. Everyone, real quick, he called out. Before dessert shows up and the wine really takes hold, I've got an announcement. People gathered fast. Phones tucked away. Glasses raised slightly. The kind of collective shift that says, this matters. Melissa stood a few feet to his left, posture perfect, hands clasped. Her smile strained with anticipation. Her boss beamed. You've all heard me talk about expanding the ownership circle, bringing in people who've proven their value, not just in numbers, but in vision. Well, tonight's the night. He looked around, paused just long enough. Please join me in congratulating our newest co-owner, Travis Monroe. For a moment, the air didn't move. Then it exploded. Applause. Cheers. Someone even whistled. I stepped forward, slow and measured. Melissa's face was unreadable. No, scratch that. It was blank because she didn't know which emotion to reach for first. Shock. Embarrassment. Panic. Her hand dropped from the stem of her glass. I took the mic, turned to the crowd with a soft nod. Thank you, I said, calm and even. It's an honor. And since we're making announcements, I looked directly at her. I've got one more. I held the microphone like it weighed nothing at all. Melissa was frozen beside her boss, glass hanging in midair, face colorless beneath perfect makeup. The party had stilled, conversations paused, smiles frozen halfway. Eyes on me. I let the silence hang just long enough. I want to thank the leadership team. I began, voice steady. This company's been more than a workplace to me lately. It's been clarity, structure, a reminder of who I am when I'm not being diminished. A few nods, scattered polite smiles. I shifted slightly toward Melissa, made sure she saw the moment coming, not because I owed her that, but because I wanted her to feel every second before the ground fell. And one last personal note, I said calmly. As of next week, I'll be filing for divorce. Gasps. Sharp intakes of breath. One woman visibly mouthed, "Oh my God." Melissa blinked. Once. Twice. Then it hit. Her face twisted, not into shock, into rage. She stepped forward. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she hissed. I didn't hand her the mic. I just turned, stepped back into the crowd, and let the announcement settle. Travis, she snapped louder now, chasing my shoulder as whispers started to spread. You can't just say that in public. I stopped, faced her fully. Why not? Our marriage has been a performance for months. Seems fitting the curtain call happens on stage. Her mouth opened, and before she could unleash whatever venom she'd stored up, it happened. From the far side of the crowd, someone barked. You did the right thing, man. She slept with the manager. The room erupted. Gasps, more than before. A ripple of tension so sharp it cracked the air. All heads turned. Some toward Melissa, some toward the corner where a red-faced man was now backing up. Realizing too late, he'd spoken out loud. Melissa's eyes shot to her boss, then the crowd, then to me. Wait, what? Who said that? That's not true. But it was too late. The party had turned. Her boss's smile vanished. Someone stepped away from her, clearly uncomfortable. A woman near the bar was already whispering furiously into someone's ear. Travis, tell them it's not true, Melissa said, panicked now, stepping closer to me. Tell them it's a rumor, some idiot trying to ruin my career. I didn't say anything, just looked at her. And that silence? It was louder than any insult. She reached for my arm. Please, Travis, don't let this be the story. I stepped back, slow, measured. It already is. Her hand dropped. She turned, wild-eyed, looking for someone, anyone, to defend her. But all she found were turned backs, awkward glances, people suddenly remembering drinks they needed to refresh or bathrooms they needed to find. Her kingdom had crumbled. Not with a scream, with silence. And me? I walked to the bar, ordered a whiskey. Neat. The glass hit the wood just as the party music clicked back on. Too loud, too forced. The show would try to continue. That's what they always do. But Melissa wasn't the star anymore. And her act? Done. 6 months later, the parking lot felt different. Cleaner, somehow. Or maybe it was just me. I pulled into my reserved space, the morning sun glinting off the hood of my new car, sleek, quiet, dark as polished obsidian. The kind of car I'd once told myself I didn't need, didn't deserve, wasn't practical enough for a man who'd been shrinking himself to fit someone else's story. Now, it felt like the right size for who I was. The engine clicked off, and I sat for a second in the stillness, watching the slow pulse of the city stretch out around me. My name was etched on the glass panel by the elevator inside. Travis Monroe, regional co-owner. It still didn't feel like triumph. It felt like peace. Upstairs, the office was already humming. Phones ringing, shoes tapping tile, meetings unfolding with whiteboards and caffeine and focus. I greeted the front desk with a nod, bypassed small talk. Everyone knew what I'd weathered. No one brought it up anymore. Melissa was gone. Technically, she'd resigned. That's how they phrased it in the official HR note that went around after everything fell apart. But everyone knew the truth. You don't keep someone who detonates their own credibility in front of 100 witnesses. Her manager, the man from the party, was also gone. Disappeared within the week. The company swept it all fast, quiet, clinical. New blood moved in. The office breathed easier. Funny how fast institutions forget people who thought they were irreplaceable. I passed the glass conference room where I'd once sat silent during budget calls. Now I led them. I made decisions Melissa used to mock me for not understanding. You don't think strategically, she once said. You're too passive. That voice didn't echo anymore. It had no room here. In my office, I stood by the window, coffee in hand, sunlight warming the sleeves of my suit. From up here, the streets below looked almost fictional. Tiny. Like everything I used to chase or fear had been scaled down to its true size. There were no more late-night arguments. No more guessing games. No more feeling like a stranger in my own home. And strangely, no hate left for her either. Melissa had been a fire I spent years trying to hold. Trying not to get burned. Trying to keep alive. But fires aren't meant to be held. They're meant to be watched, then left behind once they burn out. Now, I didn't burn. I simply stood. Alone. Clear. Whole. A knock came at the door. My assistant leaned in. The vendor rep is here. I smiled. Send him in. As I turned back toward the table, something inside me settled. Not with a jolt, but with the final click of a puzzle piece you've been holding too long. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about release. And in that release, I'd built something far stronger than a comeback. I'd built myself. She tried to break me quietly. I answered even quieter. with success, silence, and a view she never thought I'd reach. And to anyone watching, wondering, doubting, here's your reminder. Peace is the loudest victory of all.